Trojan fans, welcome to another edition of the Peristyle Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Abraham, publisher of USCFootball.com. We are joined alongside the Coach Harvey Hyde. Follow him on all his socials at Coach Harvey Hyde, or go to his website, harveyhyde.com, for all of his content. We got to break down USC's first true Big Ten road win. So it's a historic weekend out in West Lafayette. USC defeats the Purdue Boilermakers 33-17. So we're going to talk about that, the historic rain delay, the lightning delay that we've never seen before, something like that for USC football, at least for that long. And my assertion, the biggest man to ever score a touchdown for USC, and Jamaal Jarrett with his 70-yard interception returns. We're going to get into all of that. If you have questions or comments for the show, podcast at uscfootball.com is the email address, or you can call or text us, and we got a bunch of voicemails to play for you today. 424-254-9141 is the number. Leave us a text, or you can leave us a voicemail. We'd love to hear from you. And if you are listening across our different podcast platforms, Apple and Spotify, it'd be awesome if you leave the Peristyle Podcast a 5-star rating. And you can also review us on Apple Podcasts and leave individual comments for the different episodes over on Spotify. And for the last couple of weeks, we've been doing the show simulcast on video on our YouTube channel as well. So if you want to check us out at Inside Troy, leave us a comment over there on the video. Me and Coach love to chat this way. So it's a little new feature we've been doing here this season on the Peristyle Podcast. Well, welcome in, Coach. That's my long intro there. How you doing today?
Hey, buddy, I'm doing great. I just got back from the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. The Rose Bowl Quarterback Club met this morning, and Anthony Davis was the guest. And
oh, wow.
It was great listening to all the stories of how he won 5 national championships in his kickoff returns against Notre Dame, and how he missed out on the Heisman Trophy because they had already voted on it, all of the above, and the great teams. What was the best team, the 72 team or the 78 team? So I come back all enthused from being at the granddaddy of them all early in the morning, and then having our podcast together after talking to one of SC's greatest.
Yeah, that's great. It's funny, you talked to Anthony Davis just this morning. I got to talk to Marcus Allen over the weekend. He was at the Purdue game. He was down the sidelines checking things out. He came up to the press box, and Dan Weber and I got to chat with him a little bit. He's a big fan of the show, watches them all and everything. So, yeah, a couple of USC tailback legends. That's great. It's a great connection. You remember the past, and then there's a lot of hope for the future. And so far, USC's 3-0, Coach, and they got their first real road win since joining the Big Ten.
You know, Ryan, it's like taking a big, deep breath. And we went out. We accomplished our goal. Went on the road. We got a W. A lot of people think it's pretty. A lot of people don't think it's pretty. Lincoln Riley says it's great to get the W. We went through a lot of distractions. Last year, who knows? They might not have won that game, but this year they were focused. They got it done. They came back with the W. They're in first place as far as in the Big Ten. The Big Ten overall is 40-7 on the year. Is the Big Ten as strong as it was last year? I'm not quite sure it is. And then you look at the USC Trojan schedule and you say, you know what? This could be a great year. Things are going pretty good. Notre Dame is 0-2. Not that they haven't lost to great teams. Oregon, of course, is undefeated. But when you look at one game at a time, with Michigan State coming up and the other games, and Michigan is now beatable, hey, this could be a great year.
I agree with you, Coach. There's a lot of optimism now going into it. We thought that this team should start off 4-0, and then you got this game against Illinois on the road. And, you know, Michigan State hasn't looked great, so we'll see. That's going to be a really late kick in the Coliseum. We talked about that last week when it was announced. 8 p.m. Local time on Fox, Pacific time. So that's an 11 p.m. kickoff for Jonathan Smith and his boys at Michigan State. But we also just got, I guess we could do a little breaking news this morning. So we know that USC's game at number 9, Illinois, is going to also be on Fox, but this is a big noon kickoff game. So it will be 9 a.m. Local time, Pacific time for USC, 11 Central, where the game is going to be played in Champaign, Illinois. So big noon kickoff. If it's a big game this weekend with Illinois and Indiana, so we'll see kind of what happens there. But so you got one late game coming up this coming weekend, Coach, and then a really early game, 11-hour difference, calling the following weekend on the road.
Well, I tell you, Ryan, when you start winning, people start looking at you more as far as for ratings and all of the above, which brings them income. And they want numbers as far as being able to justify the rates they charge and so on. So now USC is 3-0, and they're assuming they'll be 4-0 when they play Illinois, who may be 4-0 at the same time. And a primetime broadcast on Fox is what they're looking for. The same thing in the ratings. When you start winning, your ratings go up. They're in the top 25 now. And it takes some time to gain the confidence of all the people that are voting and so on to bring them back to the standards where they believe that USC is a force. And we can talk about what we saw and you saw. You were there personally. What I saw on television as far as the Trojans, what they've done as far as going back there with all the distractions and bringing back that W, something maybe a year ago they weren't able to achieve.
Yeah, I agree with you, Coach. They probably don't win this game last year because there was a bunch of adversity. And being a former head coach at all the different levels, including at UNLV, I don't know if you've ever had the kind of situation that was happening at this game. And just to let people know, if you were trying to watch it, if you were there, but if you're trying to watch it, why did it kick off 3 hours late? Well, there was lightning in the area. And I was in the press box, and a bunch of USC administrators were in there. We were sort of chatting pregame, and I didn't realize, the severity of what was coming because we checked the weather. I mean, Southern California people don't check the weather all the time. I checked the weather before I went out there, maybe 36 hours before I was there, and it was sunny and 85 degrees. There was no storm. And then we were at breakfast, and all of a sudden the rain was coming, and you're looking at your phones, and some people are like, it's like 20 minutes of rain, and it's going to go away. In real time, it was changing. And then it became, once we were in the press box, hour or so before kickoff, you were starting to hear there's lightning in the area, there's major storms. And that's when I first kind of got word from the administrators, like they need to talk with the Big Ten, and there's all these rules in place. And once lightning, USC was out there warming up, which was interesting, and Purdue wasn't. And so people were like, well, does Purdue know something that USC doesn't know? They went through all their warm-ups, went back into the locker room, and then the rain was coming and then the lightning. And once lightning happened, it's like they evacuated the stadium. I have a photo, if you're watching us on YouTube, with the stands. There was a bunch of students there, but they had to be evacuated. If you were in the lower levels, you went down to the field and walked out to the concourse, and then you had to leave the stadium completely. And then they were in the different, facilities around the stadium, and you can see the big weather map if you're watching. They kept showing that. So it was a really interesting time. It ended up being a 3-hour delay, and Purdue has an indoor practice facility where they were, and then USC was sort of like figuring out what they were going to do, and Lincoln Riley talked about the meals and everything, but certainly some challenges when you're ready to go out and play a game, and then you have to wait 3 hours, and you guys get in a routine. So sorry, long preamble there, but I wanted to kind of get your thoughts if you'd ever experienced something like that, and what challenges there are when you are expected to come out and play a game, and then they say, nope, wait 3 hours, we're going to do it then. Because meals, everything kind of gets, impacted by, you thought you were going to play right now, and now you're going to play 3 hours from now. And you didn't know when it was going to be.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. I had an experience similar to that, but it wasn't, we weren't dressed and we weren't at the stadium. It was the night before when we flew in or tried to fly in to play the University of Nevada, Reno. And they were iced down and snowed in, and we couldn't land, so we circled the airport for hours, or an hour probably, and we had a senator on board, and there was an Air Force base, a secret Air Force base about an hour out of Reno, and we couldn't land there unless the senator called and got clearance from Washington, D.C. to land there, because it was a secret type of testing airport. So we landed there, we got off the plane, and they took us and put us in like a garage with no restrooms or anything. And we sat there for an hour or two because they had to bring buses from Reno to pick us up. So it really screwed up our whole itinerary, our workouts, our eating schedules, everything. And we weren't in a position to have food, or we weren't in the locker room and anything. So it really messed up our entire schedule. And, Coach Riley really played it off pretty positively, like it didn't upset them and they were ready to play no matter what. But I'm going to tell you, there was a lot of adjusting going on in that locker room with the nutritionists and with everybody else as far as the best way to get this team back out and stretch them keep them calm, don't make a big deal out of it so that they don't use additional energy as far as wasted energy that they're going to need because it's a delayed game and their entire itinerary was made on what time they were going to play and leave and all of this. So I really thought they adjusted well, and I think they showed that in the opening drive. They took the football and drove right down the field and scored a touchdown. And I think that got the momentum and got them warmed up and took all the doubts out of their mind as far as, hey, we put it off 3 hours, but they had to put it off 3 hours. Now let's play this game.
Yeah, I thought they adjusted to that really well, Coach. And like you mentioned, the top where some of the adversity USC had seen on the road last year, things that just didn't go their way, and then they would sort of buckle and not be able to bounce back. But in this one, they did. I think one of the early, you talked about scoring on that first drive. The run game wasn't there, though, early on. And I don't know if that was impacted by the delay at all, but it got better at the end. And I think Lincoln Riley was really proud the way they ran the ball and milked clock at the end of the game. But it wasn't quite there early on. And, so I wanted to get your thoughts on that, what you felt like was going wrong with the run game early and then how it kind of came together later in the game.
Well, you don't score a touchdown on every play, so you stick with what you have. And I think what they did, they stretched the field more later on when he ran the keep and scored a couple of touchdowns. They stretched the defense. I'd like to see him stretch the defense a little bit more, like with jet sweeps and so on. But they loosened them up where they had to worry about the run, and that's what I think the play-action pass really hurt them. I think Jaden is a much better quarterback with a play-action type of fast action where he's not hurried. He can read and causes a bigger difficult to defend the Trojans because of their great running backs. I tell you, you've got to be able to stop those running backs because if they get in your secondary, they're going to go all the way. They got speed, they're tough, and it's not like they have one. They got two or three of them, and then they've got great receivers too. I'd like to see them use the tight end a little bit more with the play-action pass. They did throw the ball to the tight end, but I mean with drags and flats and different type corner routes and so on, well, it really puts a strain on that secondary. So I think if they develop their offense in the fashion of what they're doing and don't just try to throw the ball all the time, I think they'd be a much better offensive football team. I was disappointed that in the red zone they didn't get in for 6 rather than 3, but they didn't have any turnovers down there and so on, and you can't be always try to take a chance to get in there, but you got to have the confidence when you get in the red zone, you got to score. 3-pointers are good, but 6-pointers make the difference in big football games.
Yeah, 5 field goal attempts in this game, 1 doinked, but outside of that, scoring points on all those drives. But you'd like to see a little more touchdowns. Not great on third down, 4 of 13, but they were really good, 4 of 4. On fourth down, and we talked about this on Tunnel Vision last night, Coach, but I wanted to get your thoughts. When they ran those fourth down plays, it just looked like sometimes you see a fourth down play and it's like a fire drill, like there's hope. You could see the hope, like, oh my God, I hope this works. When I watched them run those fourth down plays, it just seemed like they'd run this 100 times. They know exactly what we're going to do. It was super smooth, and they picked up the first down fairly easily on all of them. Some of the time, this offense, especially some of those deep balls, I thought it looked like everyone knew what they were doing, and Jaden Maiava looked pretty smooth there. But did you kind of notice that on fourth down where it just seemed like they were confident that they were running the right play and they were going to pick up these critical downs?
I think they're starting to believe in the run more, whether it's Lincoln Riley believing in the run more or the team believing in the run more. He calls the plays, but he's not afraid to call a run. I think he's throwing, I don't know what the stats were last year, but I look at the running game and so on. I think he has more confidence in it. And by throwing those long bombs, loosen up the secondary. And believe me, when you throw those bombs like that, the percentages of them catching the football or pass interference because of the size of the receivers and how good they are, it's 50-50. But they know they can't run with them or catch with them and so on. And Purdue had a couple of good defensive backs trying to cover them. So I think that's good, the way to keep the defense loosened up, stretch the defense, run the football. I'd love to see him, like I said, put the jet in. I'd love to see him run more draw plays to help Jaden when he drops straight back to pass the football. That will really, really help them as far as holding the linebackers, as far as taking the zone areas. So as far as an improvement in play calling, as far as an improvement in the philosophy of the offense, I see a lot of changes. I think they're still going to do a lot more with it. I think they're in the process of still putting it together. As he says, they've still got things to work on, and you always do as far as trying to get better.
Coach, I wanted to switch to the defensive side of the ball a little bit. Obviously, some massive plays. Bishop Fitzgerald had 2 interceptions, one in the end zone, one at the goal line, basically thwarting 2 scoring attempts from Purdue. And then the big man, I mentioned Jamaal Jarrett getting that 70-yard pick 6. And I talked to some historians, Coach, that know USC football. There wasn't a lot of 360-pound players before. And, we were trying to think of some big men that scored. Jay Tufele did a few years back. I think it's Utah. And then Mike Patterson, if you remember him, 2003 scored against UCLA. But he was, he wasn't even 300 pounds. I think it's pretty safe to say that's the largest human being to ever score wearing cardinal and gold, a touchdown. But they were these big plays, but they also gave up a lot. I think the average drive for Purdue was 45 yards. What was your overall thought on the defensive side, where you had sort of these big play moments, but really a hard time getting off the field in a lot of other instances?
Well, first of all, I think it's great when a defensive lineman can get his picture on the front page of a newspaper. I really do, but you really don't see that happen often, and you can see the emotion and excitement that the whole USC Trojan football team had for this type of play happening. It's great for morale. It really is great for morale, because anything can happen on a football field. As far as the interceptions are concerned, thank goodness they were, because Purdue was driving the football, as you said, and running the football. And down there, and without those interceptions, it could have been a lot different football game. They were in scoring position several times and got denied. But as far as the defense is concerned, I think there's still a lot of work to do there. I think there's still things that need to be improved on. I don't want to say that the future of the Trojans is to outscore people, but I think that the defense has got to shore up a little bit more and not allow the type of ball control the other team has. Not that USC didn't ball control them 34 minutes to 27 or whatever, but they held the football and they were able to move the football. And realistically, you're going to find more talented teams offensively than what Purdue threw at you. Not that they weren't coached well. Barry Odom does a great job, but they're not the best skilled kids you're going to face as far as when you play in the Big Ten. So I think that they've got to be a little bit more improved on defense. You've got to have better linebacker play, and all the stats I see every week is Eric Gentry, 8 tackles, so many of this, so many of that. He gets this on the football final, college football final. He gets a star in the Trojan helmet. All these things happen, but I want to see him more involved in the game as far as physically. Not that I'm not saying he's not a great athlete, but I want to see him be in there, and I want to see Stevens make more tackles as far as on the line of scrimmage and sticking somebody and so on. I want to see these things happen in the secondary too. I want to see them shore up a little bit more. I don't know if they've really decided who their best secondary is yet, but I think down the road they're going to have to and make the changes. And edge rushers, they're better than they were a year ago, but they have a ways to go still yet, because you've got to really put force on the outside of the rush guys so that they force everything back up to the big guys or to the linebackers blitzing or whatever. So there's some things to do on the defensive side of the football. I would think they would be farther along defensively, but they made the turnovers. They got the turnovers, which really, Ryan, saved them. The turnover saves them a lot. Rather, Purdue could have had a couple more touchdowns.
No, I agree with you, Coach. And the pressure has been a lot better. I mean, I think when we watched this team last year, it seemed like the tackling, they were more fundamentally sound, but they maybe just didn't have the horses. I think they're not as advanced on that side of things that I would like, that you would have liked. But I have seen an improvement on defensive pressure, pressuring up front. I think leading the nation in sacks right now. I had 5 sacks against Ryan Brown. And I thought Brown hung in there pretty well and got rid of the ball quickly. That he got it to his playmakers, and I think USC was playing off a little bit, and they sort of took what was there. But I thought, as far as talent-wise, they showed some real poise under a lot of pressure. But I have seen the pressure get a lot better than what we've seen last year, Coach.
I think it's better right now currently against the opponents they're playing against, but we got to see them against some of the other opponents and exactly how they do. They got to step their game up each week because their opponents are going to be stronger each week. So you've got to improve off the tape and the film and techniques and be positive on what you've done and what you got to do. And I think this is what it's all about during this week as far as practice, getting ready for Michigan State, who comes to the Coliseum undefeated too. So I think it'll be a great matchup with Jonathan Smith coming back home.
No, I agree with you, Coach. That's going to be a good one. 8 p.m. kick, like we talked about. It should be interesting. Any other thoughts from the game before we kind of move on? Or
yeah, I sort of feel bad for the punters at USC. In 3 games, they punted 3 times, right?
And none.
3 punts.
Yeah, none Saturday, none in the opener. So it was all in one game.
Yeah, all one game, 3. I mean, they've kicked the ball 3 times, and they've been working out all this time, and they're eating for free. They're on full scholarship, and they haven't been able to display all their skills. So if they're not punting the football, then obviously they have good field position where they can move the football, go for it on 4th down, or kick a field goal. So that's a good indication also.
Yeah, they moved the ball well. It was very limited possessions. If you remember, I talked about wanting to see USC put up 50 points in this game. It wasn't that kind of game just because, one, the USC defense had a hard time getting off the field. They only had 1 3-and-out. It was at the very end of the game. And then USC, stalled on a bunch of drives in the red zone and end up, like you said, 5 field goal attempts isn't going to work. But really only 8 real possessions. So there wasn't just, they never punted. It just, they were moving the ball, but it wasn't one of those games where you get 6 possessions in the first half and score 4 touchdowns. It just wasn't one of those. And that's kind of what you would have needed. But to never punt and never give it up on 4th down, never turn the ball over, that's a pretty good sign. You would like to keep that going through the whole season if you could.
Yeah, you do. You want to see that keep going, but you don't know if it's going to happen or not going to happen. But I thought it would be an unusual stat. That's all, the unusual stat. I think Jaden is maturing as a quarterback.
Yeah.
I think he'll, with what they're doing, is the best for him. They can't be afraid to let him handle the football. Remember, he's a big guy. And when he comes around the corner there, he gets so many extra yards when they try to hit him, and he still goes. You can't worry about him getting hurt because you got to utilize the offense that you're running. Remember, the offense, he's your 12th guy in offense, so utilize him. Make it mostly impossible to stop them with all their great athletes, and don't be afraid to run a quarterback draw occasionally. Things that give him the football and really puts the fear of God in the defense.
Yeah. No, I thought it was really effective on the keeps. And I thought the fakes were good. So that was, I thought he did a nice job running things. A couple balls that you could have been put in harm's way, but I thought he handled the offense well. And like you said, when they used his legs a little bit to pick up some first downs, and I thought that was really effective. One last thing before we take a break, Coach. The AP poll came out on Sunday, and USC, for the first time this season, is ranked. Didn't make the coaches poll yet. 3-0 USC jumps in at number 25 in the AP poll. So I know some people really care, some people don't, but I think it's important to have, that ranking there, especially when, a team like USC is undefeated. The big jump will come if you beat a team like Illinois on the road. I don't think you're going to move up a ton for beating a Michigan State team. We'll see, maybe if you blow them out and some other teams lose, you could make a significant jump. But the big move could be if you beat a top 10 Illinois team on the road. But any thoughts on USC being ranked?
It's good and bad, Ryan. If you move them up too fast, then the players start to think we're pretty good. If you keep them down where they are, you can sell them on, hey, it's time that we prove them more. They weren't satisfied at Purdue. And it's not where we start, it's where we end. So let's work our way through the schedule one game at a time. And who cares what the rankings are, as long as if we control our own destiny and we win football games and we win 10 games and possibly win the Big Ten, which they could do with the games they play. They don't play Penn State. They don't play Ohio State. Yes, they've got Oregon. But I'm telling you, they could be right in the thick of things. So I wouldn't worry about the rankings right now. I'd worry about where we're going to be when it's the final straw.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd be telling my team right now. They don't think much of us, but we think a lot of ourselves.
All right. Well, good stuff. Why don't we do this? Let's take a quick break. We got some voicemails and an email question to get to. So back in a minute, everyone. All right, we're back here on the Peristyle Podcast. We got an email question from Jim in the D.C. area, Coach. He says, the defensive scheme has shown strengths and weaknesses. Based on what you have seen in the first 3 games, what changes would you make to the scheme? Love your insight, Coach. Jim from D.C.
Well, I'd probably have some more aggressive type of blitzes and so on. And I wouldn't be afraid to do it because it gives teams, they have to prepare for it. I would give them a lot of different looks, a lot of different things that I do on the defensive side of the football when I can. So they have to spend time in practice and meetings and so on that says if they do this and if they do that, and if they're in this cover, we're going to all oblige to this and so on, even if we never do it. But the point is it takes time away from the normal game planning that they have to do if we don't show them a lot of different things. So I would show them a lot of different things, and I would work with my linebackers more on their intensity as far as going after the quarterback and how to flatten out and not allow people to roll out on me and so on, and play real sound defense where they have to search of ways of trying to beat you that you're not going to break down. And when you go after them, they're going to say, they're coming. You guys better block them, but they're going to run over you. If you're a back blocking a safety or a linebacker or something, they're going to run over you. So make them spend time working on their pass blocking with their backs and everything else. So if I was going to do anything defensively, I'd give them more to look at and different looks that they would have to prepare for us when we played.
All right. Well, let's go to some voicemails. We got 3 of them for you today, Coach. So I will play the first one for you and get your thoughts.
Hey, Ryan, this is Curtis. This call is for you and the coach. I was very happy to see the defense being so disruptive. They gave up the underneath passes, but the quarterback for Purdue had no time to throw anything deep and very few mid-range passes. So I'm very happy that the offense did enough, but the defense really stood out. I am not used to seeing us harass the quarterback and beat him up like that. We even got a couple of late hits because they just were hitting them all the time. Very happy. Also, Coach, what do we do or how did you handle when you were coaching teams that were deeper than you? We have a lot of talent, but some of the teams we play, like the Oregons of the world, will have better second and third stringers maybe for the fourth quarter. How did you handle playing teams that were deeper than yours at UNLV? Curtis from Moreno Valley.
Well, Curtis, it's good to have you back in the huddle. I mean, I missed you the first couple of weeks, and, man, it's good to have you back and your comments and so on. And we'd like to invite all of you to check with us, and if you have a question, ask us. And one thing Ryan will tell you, and I'll tell you, when you ask me a question, I'll honestly answer it. You might not like it, but I'm going to answer it. Well, Curtis, I think you're right. I think they put a lot of rush on him, the quarterback from Purdue, and I think it disrupted them. They had to go to the short passing game a lot. And I think that disallows the big play or the big home run or so on. They hit a couple of passes over the middle, but there were people there to make the tackle. I didn't think they had the threats beating you deep. The defensive backs at USC work against great receivers every day. So when they see someone, I used to have a problem that when my secondary would see guys that couldn't play like the players we had, then it sort of bothered me because I thought they let up a little bit on their intensity going into the game, and somehow they'd make a mistake and underplay them because they thought they lacked the speed to beat them. So I think you have to respect your receivers. You have to respect who you're playing against, and you got to continue coming after them. Remember, you got to play on their side of the football. You win in the trenches. And I think they've got to continue doing that because they're going to face some guys that it's not going to be as easy to beat in the trenches. Now, I'm not quite sure. I don't know how much better Michigan State is than Purdue. Michigan State really hasn't done that well. They're undefeated, but who have they beaten? And it was the same type of thing in Purdue. Who had they beaten? They were 2-0, but they hadn't beaten anybody. And now it's time to get into the thick of things where Michigan State's got a name of a great football program. So now when you beat a team like this, you get more notice in the polls nationally and more confidence in yourself. So I think they got to wrap up, and like I told you, they got to get more linebacker play. I'm not happy with their linebacker play.
All right, Coach. Well, thanks, Curtis. Yeah, we never got word if Curtis was out of the transfer portal or not, but he's been calling again a little bit, so that's probably a good sign. But remember, he entered the portal for a while. And
I didn't know that.
Yes. So he, the fan portal, Coach. So he was in the fan portal.
Come on, Curtis, don't be doing that.
We got another voicemail. Let me play this one for you.
Hey, Peristyle. This is Rick from Vista. This question is more for the coach, I would think. Coach, I need to know how important are the coaches as far as coaching up players to get to the next level? How important are they on game day when it comes to making adjustments? Because, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think we have the best coaching staff in America, if not top 5. That being the case, I have a ton of respect for Coach Lynn, and I think every game he's going to dial up something great for the defense to do. I mean, look at last year. I mean, we were right in there with Penn State. We were right in there with Notre Dame. We were there. We were in the games, and a lot of it has to do with his defense. And now you add his defense with better players. I mean, we should be right there. And the other thing is, Coach, do they hold back on certain looks and stuff so they can save it for the better teams? Or can we expect it's going to be a whole different defense every time we play? And obviously the same could be said about the head coach. It seems like his offensive levels have gone down, not up, since Caleb Williams left. So I'd like to know your thoughts on that. Thank you very much. Oh, by the way, I'm really curious about, changes being made at halftime. And I want to know your thoughts on Rob Ryan and any of the changes that could be made each halftime. Thank you. Bye.
All right. First of all, I think Lynn's an outstanding coach. I think that what you have to do is put your players in the best position to be successful against any type of offense. You can stay in a standard type of defense, but is that the best for the team you're playing against? You've got to put them in the best position where they can accomplish their goals and the game plans, and you can't ask players to do things that's impossible to do. You've got to have them be confident in the game plan and confident in what their assignments are and make sure they can, do those assignments without worrying about, if they do this or if they do that. So I think sometimes the simpler you make it, the better it is for you and your own team on the defensive side of the football, especially if you have better players. If you got better players, then you don't want to make a mistake. You want to play consistent, hard-nosed football. But then again, as I mentioned it earlier, I think it's also an advantage to you when you give the team different looks where they don't catch a look, they don't audible out of the look, and you get a big play out of it, a fumble, a sack, or whatever it might be. And also, as we mentioned earlier, the teams you're going to play in the future see this and cut it all up, and they say, we got to prepare for this, we got to prepare for that. There's a lot of different things you have to prepare to. So it's a catch-3. You got to do it all. You got to put them in a position to win. You got to put them in a position to achieve what you're asked them to do. Plus, you got to give them an advantage as far as other teams have to prepare for what you're doing. And then you basically turn them loose and you let them go 100% the entire game And if they need a break, you give them a break. But if you can't play it 100%, then you're not going to get it done. And I think playing the game of football is what I look at. Playing it hard, get yourself off the field, get the other side of the football, like the offense, the opportunity of taking advantage of what you've given them.
All right, Coach. Well, we got one more voicemail. Our buddy, Sir Eric of Troy, called in this morning for you. So let me play it, and here you go.
Good morning, Ryan and Coach Hyde. This is Sir Eric of Troy. Forgive my voice. I got it still raspy after being in West Lafayette, yelling at the game and getting wet at the same time. But Coach Hyde, I saw another illegal hands to the face penalty on us, which makes 4 in 2 games. My question to you as head coach is, what would you have done about this? I know back in my days, something like that, we would have run laps, until we vomited, or suicides and everything until we could hardly stand. And after that, we would have been afraid to put our hand in our own face for quite a while. So, again, when you were head coach, what would you have done about something like this? Would you have penalized, let's say, or punished the player, or is it his coach that needs to teach him to do something differently? Just really excited to hear your answer. Okay? Have a great day. You guys fight on. Sir Eric of Troy.
Yeah, Coach. So Sir Eric of Troy points out against Georgia Southern, USC defensive linemen had 3 illegal hands to the face penalties. A couple of helmets came off in that one, and then cut it down to 1 against Purdue, but still had one there. So 4 illegal hands to the face penalties on defensive linemen the last 2 games.
Well, the first thing I would do is tell them that, we make great plays and then we hurt ourselves. And I said, that's just concentration of knowing right from wrong. And we go back and we drill on it, and I would do individual drills as far as with my offensive linemen and defensive linemen with an official there every single down, officiating anything in practice that looks like a hand in the face. And you've got to stop that. Otherwise, you're going to kill yourself. So it starts in practice. It starts with discipline. And you've got to think about what you're doing. And once you do that by accident, if you can get it back out of there, you got to do it. It's the same thing on a hold. The hold starts, and all of a sudden you continue to keep the hold instead of releasing the hold and let the play go. Well, it's the same thing as far as a slap to the helmet or a hand in the face or any of those type of things. You've got to train against it. You've got to officiate against it. And you've got to watch it closely and show it on film and so on and what they did wrong until you beat it into their heads that this is helping your opponent. Now, in the old days, yes, we used to run laps and do this and do that and all of that, but I don't believe in that now because as I grew as a coach, I figured they were taking practice time away from them really getting better. Instead of doing the drills and getting better, they're running laps or playing in a sandbox. So I felt it was better if you're going to discipline, you do it a different way, but you don't do it during practice when you can improve with the techniques they're failing on and you're not having them do some type of penalty.
All right, Coach. Good stuff there. Yeah, I think that's an emphasis this season, talking about the illegal hands to the face penalties that Coach getting calls over there. And I think that's just one of those things. They also had a couple sideline interference penalties in this game too. So the referees have to have a lane, and we didn't get an explanation from Lincoln Riley yet on what those were, but officials will be running down the sideline because they're following a play and they can't be looking to see where they're going. So that's usually what happens with the sideline interference stuff, or too many players come out after a big gain or something like that. But we've seen some of these penalties in bunches, Coach. But two games in a row where there's over 100 yards in penalties, you don't want to see that.
Well, I don't want to use the term lack of discipline, but you've got a lot of people on the sideline that I see that's doing nothing. Okay, jumping up and down and doing this and doing that. And they're in coaching gear, so they took the trip. Somebody paid their way back there to do something. Now, it's great to have enthusiasm. Don't get me wrong. But there's also a time and place where you don't hurt your team by getting too enthusiastic and not following what the guidelines are on the sideline.
Yeah.
And if I'm an official, you've got to run up and down the sideline. and you've got to have that. If you trip and fall, you could hurt yourself. Plus, that's the rules and regulations. Now, a lot of times the head coach is standing at and they get away with it. But all people should be back the distance of that line. And you should have people assigned to that, doing that during the game. And normally I had my strength coaches doing that. Because my strength coaches had a lot of authority over the players, and they would use the type of language that would explain to them where they're supposed to stand. Not, would you please move to behind the line? And sometimes there's people on the sideline that might not want to hear that, but it could be a costly penalty that costs you the game. So it's a lack of discipline and something you have to take care of and talk to your team about it and make sure it doesn't happen. Otherwise, whose fault is it? The head football coach.
Yeah. It all comes to the top, right, Coach? That's
right. It does.
You got to take care of business there. All right. Well, cool. That's all we got. That was great to get a bunch of voicemails and hear from everybody. And again, if you want to email us, you can do it podcast@uscfootball.com. Just let us know it's for the coach, or leave us a voicemail, or you can shoot us a text too. We get those as well. 424-254-9141 is the number. And if you are watching on YouTube, thanks for doing that. You can leave us a comment. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at Inside Troy. And of course, all of Harvey Hyde's content at Coach Harvey. It's harveyhyde.com. His socials are at Coach Harvey Hyde. What do you got going on this week, Coach? What's going up on your site and your shows and everything?
Well, every week's crazy, Ryan, as far as with shows and the segments I do with other programs and other teams in Las Vegas and so on. And my Sunday morning show at 10 a.m. on KLAA every Sunday morning. You're going to be a guest on that here coming down the schedule, and that's 10 to 11 a.m. 8:30. And then I got a Saturday night show. Normally, sometimes it's a halftime show, but the games are late, and I'm doing my show from 6 to 7.
Yeah.
So I do my reporting. But next week, I'll be able to have the game all completed by maybe 1:30, and I'll be able to enjoy college football the rest of the day and do my show.
Yes. Some of the game times are so all over the place. The 11-hour difference from week to week for USC games are going to be, plus the 3-hour time delay this last one. So game times are a little bit different, but yeah, we'll see. But great stuff, Coach. Always fun chatting with you, and we get to see you a little bit while we're talking, which I like.
I like it.
Yeah. And so I try to put, if you're watching on YouTube, I try to put up some photos, and I played that video of Jamaal Jarrett returning that ball, interception, touchdown, 70 yards. That Chris Trevino was right in the corner of the end zone. He was running right at him. So it was a really good shot that Chris got. So we got to play that for you guys. And so try it a little different. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you're just listening regular podcast way, that's great. I think that's where most people, that's how they can kind of consume these shows. But we try to do some video elements as well, because there's a lot of people that love watching these kind of things on YouTube. So we'll do our best, but we like to make it interactive. We love to hear from you. So hopefully keep sending in your questions as the season rolls on, and we'll see how this Trojan team keeps progressing. But Coach, thanks again. Really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Betty. And for all of you out there, we want to thank you for listening or watching or whatever you do with our podcast weekly. And if you have any questions, just send it in, and we'll do our best to answer the questions.
We will. And that is the Coach Harvey Hyde. Follow him at Coach Harvey Hyde. Follow me at Inside Troy on the X or the Twitters. And I hope you guys all enjoyed the show, and we will talk to you next time.